Welcome to another episode of Roll or Die. Today's guest, I wouldn't really describe him as an up-and-comer because this guy's been out there on the scene grinding away for quite some time. Really looking forward to getting to know him. He's currently out in Austin, Texas, in a training camp. He is a brown belt at Absolute MMA, and he's got probably one of the coolest surnames that we've ever had on this podcast. For a grappling podcast, we really are looking forward to getting to know Brodie Greco. Thanks for joining us, Brodie.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome to see you, mate. Welcome to Roll or Die. You have been out there for a fair while and competing at high levels and doing things, around the world. So a quick look on your Instagram, mate. It shows that you're with the big hitters all the time. Apart from Dan Schwartz, mate, I don't know what you're keeping company with that big oaf for. But how how did you get into jiu-jitsu, and then did you sort of find that level of team straight away, or were you at other gyms? Like, what was your foray into jiu-jitsu, mate?
So roughly about 10 years ago, me and my brother joined an MMA gym. So we were basically training MMA every day. And then I moved from that gym probably at 6 months into Trinity MMA under Nick Hughes to pursue MMA full-time or somewhat full-time at that point of life.
Brodie, can I interrupt? Is that in Adelaide? Were you from Adelaide?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, from Adelaide. Did that for about 2 years-ish. Training jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu was always the passion, but during a few of the training camps, I'd taken a few concussions and whatnot. And I decided to take a step back from doing MMA due to the impact. I found that my memory loss very early on was affected, just short-term memory loss. And that was before I really had any MMA fights. Like, I had like a trial, some smokers. I trained in the US at Jackson Wink MMA in Albuquerque, New Mexico for a little bit. But then once that started to affect my short-term memory loss, I just decided that jiu-jitsu was where the passion has always lied, and go from there. But to this day, I've taken the worst concussions in jiu-jitsu more than MMA.
Oh, really? So even there, mate, like starting out with Nick Hughes and that sort of thing too, like, you've really found great people to be around, right? So it's such an important part of, I think, growth if you're trying to get good at something, being around those sorts of guys. So you really had a good step in, right from day one, really, right?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely found very early on that I surrounded myself around pretty much the best I could at the time. In Adelaide, it was Nick Hughes for MMA. During that time, I had decided to do an MMA camp overseas at Jackson Wink MMA, which at the time was with John Jones, one of the top MMA training academies in the world. Looking back in hindsight, that probably wasn't the smartest idea to do it, like white belt and like just starting out, but I always found I wanted to surround myself with the best of the best. Shortly after that camp, I had decided that jiu-jitsu was the passion, and moved to Melbourne and pursued it full-time with Lachlan Giles because, as we all know, he's one of the best in the Southern Hemisphere.
Wow, that's a pretty big step to take as a young guy, like moving, not just to pursue jiu-jitsu full time, but moving to another city entirely. And yeah, I didn't actually know that you came from Adelaide. So what is it about Adelaide? There's actually a really big growth of jiu-jitsu, or there's a lot of just beasts coming out of there. Besides we've mentioned Nick Hughes, Declan Moody, the M16 crew there. Beachside, there's heaps of really good, especially no gi jiu-jitsu. What do you think it is about Adelaide that's the scene is so strong over there?
I would say, as a joke, everybody sort of moves away from Adelaide because there's nothing to do, but now it's growing more and more. I guess it's very concentrated in small pockets, whereas Melbourne and Sydney, you would see there would be many gyms over more, I guess, square kilometers. I would say it's probably a little bit similar to Melbourne to an extent, but Melbourne's a little bit more of an area, expanded area, whereas Adelaide's very small, dense. Everybody trains with everybody. Sorry, guys, I do still have a cough.
Mate, don't worry about it. I had that for about 5 or 6 weeks or something. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm still recovering at the moment.
So you get to Melbourne, and then you went like that was a pointed thing, like going and training at Absolute. So you wanted to be under Lockie.
Yeah,
And then how did that sort of go from there? Like you obviously decided like this is a passion and I'm going to chase it and become full time, right? So at
yeah,
what age did you do that? Like what's the thought process behind that? Because it's a big step, like everybody gets encouraged to go out, get a trade, do something and have fun doing jiu-jitsu. But
yeah.
for you, it was like, let's make this a career and let's make this a life. So how did that sort of go down with family and were they supportive? And tell us about those early days at Absolute.
Yeah, so it was roughly, I want to say 2018. So this was age 20. No, age 23. Sorry, I'm forgetting my own age. Age 23, well, in terms
Wait
of
till you're 52, bro. Then you really forget everything.
in terms of career, I started off as a chef for the first 6 years.
So did Brentos. Oh my God, that's so weird.
And I was doing that full time, managing training somewhat alongside that. So I had obtained a career very early on. So by the time I was ready to move to Melbourne, I was in a position with my career where I could work 2 to 3 days a week and sustain this lifestyle. Doing that. In terms of early days of Absolute, it's a pretty crazy story because I had done 3 trips to Melbourne to compete for nationals or some sort of event, and I'd always planned a week after the event to train with Lachlan, and I always got injured. So the 3 times that I had planned to train there and meet Lachlan, to be like, hey, I'm moving down, because it was like a 6 or 7 month plan to do it, I'd never actually got to train with him. So I went into Absolute having met Lachlan twice at a tournament. He was super welcoming. And then, yeah, just going from there and training in their pro team just before COVID lockdown. So we're about a year before COVID came. So that was a fun time for all of us there. Family was very supportive of the
What were you
move.
then, Brodie? Sorry, mate. What belt were you then when you went in?
I was a blue belt when I moved there. My coach at the time, Nick Hughes, had decided not to give me my purple belt so I could go into Absolute, not as a fresh purple belt getting crushed, but as a blue belt who could hold his own ground and then have something to work towards with Lachlan.
And tell us a bit more about those kind of pro sessions at Absolute. We've had, quite a few Absolute members on, but yeah, give us some insight into what it's like on the inside there.
Yeah, I guess over the years it really evolved from all the black belts that Lachlan Liv, Tommy Everett, Mikhail, Adam was gone actually when I just got there, but there was a bunch of guys when I first got there. It was a very
Ben Hodgkinson.
Ben Hodge was there. I can't even think, but it was a very small niche crew that I joined. Brad was also there, Weidenhofer. And it was just like a grind. Every day was a grind. It was me getting, I mean, it's still to this day, it's me getting bashed every day when I go back. But over the years, it evolved from more of a group of guys. I mean, it was always very technical, but back when I joined, Lachlan was still an athlete. So he was coaching the athletes as not sort of a side project, but his main focus was being an athlete preparing for ADCC. And the coaching role was separate because, as we all know, it's hard to be the highest level coach when you're also being an athlete, because being an athlete, it's very selfish, especially at the highest levels. So, and I'm not saying that in any disrespect to Lachlan or anything. It was just that his his focus, you could see, was him being an athlete. And we got amazing training out of it at the time. And then slowly, after his last ADCC run, he retired. Then he moved into more of a, obviously, more of a head coach role. And then the development of the training sessions turned into more of a developing skills in a more formatted skill set, I guess. So we'll do a lot more specific training. It was a lot more technical. And then we have our training camps when we lead up to ADCC trials, where they pretty much go 180, and then we go from more technical development to more high intensity rounds and more situational.
We know a fair bit about the Submeta online series that Lockie's got, and it is amazing. Like, he's done such a fantastic job with it. One of the things, we've spoken to a few of the guys from Absolute, and they would be like, yeah, we have Submeta, we go on, this is what we're working, and then we get proficient in that, and then, like, we'll get tasked with the next thing. Is that something that, as a pro athlete, you were doing as well, Brodie, or was yours a little bit different?
In the early days, there was no Submeta. That's only a recent iteration after COVID. So Lachlan spent a lot of time during COVID just filming the Submeta. So for me, no, even to this day, I have the Submeta because we all have access to it. For me, it's very hard to not find time, but focus on the courses itself to focus, really. I struggle with focus on videos and whatnot. So for me, it was always like, by the time I'd managed to find like a burst of energy or productivity in that, oh, let's sit down and watch this course, it might have been 3 or 4 days past from when I already problem solving something from that training session. And because I always have access to the highest level of coaches, where they're here, it being like John Danaher, Luke Griffith, Gordon Ryan, and such, I can get those questions answered straight away, so I never need to. And back in Melbourne, it's the same with Lachlan. Like, Lachlan has put a lot of personal time into me, so I could always ask him these questions before or after class, and I would get the answers straight away. So almost like skipping the Submeta.
You mentioned,
But I would love to be able to sit there and watch his courses. Like, the stuff I have seen and the stuff I've filmed with him, it's incredible content. I can't praise it enough, because having it in such short form content is incredible, and he's an amazing teacher.
you mentioned about like your travels, etc. So you've, like, just to give our listeners a bit of an insight into what Brodie's been up to. So he recently travelled from Rome over to Austin, which is where he is at the moment. He's going to be going to LA, then to Melbourne, then Melbourne to Singapore, then to Kuala Lumpur, then Kuala Lumpur to Bangkok, and Bangkok to Sydney to Melbourne. This is all in the next couple of weeks. So just I'm not just, can you give us some tips on how you manage kind of travel and stuff like that in amongst all your training, because that's
You
pretty
must
hectic.
have really got paid well as a chef. Bloody hell.
Yeah. We can touch on that a little bit later. It really is a struggle, balancing training and the travel schedule, especially this year. I think this year and last year has been the biggest travel schedule I've had. This year specifically, I came to the US in May. So that alone, that trip is just really dreaded. The time zone kills me. And then we had the CGI camp in Las Vegas. I was traveling over there. But this one to Italy, I actually went to London at the start of the month, at the start of October, for Grapplefest. I was there for 6 days, flew back for 2 weeks, and then flew back to London to fly to Italy. And now we're starting this adventure to Thailand. I don't really have any advice for people, because that's something I really am struggling at the moment for, is not only just the jet lag, but I've been getting sick a lot lately from just constant travel. But then balancing the training and recovery when I come back is, I've taken so much time off training for these travel trips that I want to go in at 100%. I want to train twice a day. And I feel great, but then I get sick. So it's like that's the biggest battle I have right now. Is it's not managing my training load. It's like the recovery and not getting sick or recovering from being sick.
Do you think it also comes a bit from the fact that Australia's just so far from the rest of the world? Like we always have to do that kind of minimum 10-hour trip just to get to the next place, even just the layover place to where you're headed, sort of thing. Like that's probably a big factor, yeah?
Yeah, for sure. And that's one of the reasons why I chose to live in the US 6 months of the year, the last 3 years, because very early on when I was a purple belt, I was traveling to London for Grapple Fest. Just that flight alone is 20 hours. It's $2,000. Just that one trip. I get some money from my sponsors, but me being based in the US, that trip halves to 8 hours and $600, $600 to $800, depending on when I book it. So it's like I'm not necessarily in the US for the best training. It's more so for the ability that I can compete anywhere I want, anywhere in the world at any time, relatively cheaply, as opposed to coming from Australia, where, as you said, it's minimum 10 hours before we get a layover, let alone if we're flying to Europe or the US. And it's expensive.
On the expense side, mate, like how do like obviously you have sponsors, but like how does that work for you? Like are you doing privates for people? Are you running classes? Like as a pro athlete, we kind of hear that word and we're like, oh, like he's got sponsors and people, Qantas are flying him first class everywhere. Like how does it sort of look day to day for you, mate?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm probably in a better position than a lot of professional athletes out there, especially at the mid tier that I would say that I am. I get about $5,000 to $6,000 a year in financial aid from my sponsors, depending on who they are, what time of the year. I also have some silent partners that I can't disclose. So that pays for my travel for jiu-jitsu tournaments, more or less. I try and keep it within that and whatnot. But I teach seminars. The last couple of years have been great. Like I probably teach anywhere between 10 to 12 seminars a year, which I mean, I'm not making crazy money from it, but it's enough to get by. It's enough to travel. But when I'm in Melbourne, and this is the reason why I come back in the summer, is I have my own consulting business for hospitality events. So I do consulting for Formula One, Australian Open, and depending on when Europeans land, which has been really annoying the last couple of years, the Spring Racing Carnival. But the last 2 years, I haven't been able to do it because the dates have landed smack bang on European. So I usually come back for those three events. I'm very well paid for those events, but those events come with the hospitality hours of me doing anywhere between 75 to 100 hours a week. So the 3 months the 6 months that I am back home in Melbourne, I would say 2.5 months of that is reserved purely for work, and I'm not doing anything else.
Yeah, wow, man. So it's even though I guess as Brentos said, people hear about pro athletes and maybe they think it's like a real glamorous lifestyle, but it's a grind. Yeah,
Yeah.
if you don't mind me saying, it sounds like you're working your ass off out there, not just what we see on social media where you're standing on the podium and stuff like that. There's a lot that goes into it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I guess, especially in the early days when I was like coming up from blue belt to now where I am, nobody ever saw the hours that I was working as a chef. I was training 10 a.m., 8 to 10 a.m. midday, and then I was working in a kitchen from, I'd say, anywhere between 2 p.m. to 1 o'clock in the morning in the early days, doing that 5 days a week. But people only really see when you're off to Thailand, competing, training, winning a medal in Europe, London, and whatnot. So it's like the people around me, my close circle of friends, know the struggle that I go through in that balance. But when I'm in the US now, it's purely I've made it work that I'm here for 6 months of the year. I train. I don't need to worry about work. I don't need to worry about financials or anything like that while I'm here. So I get like sort of the best training here when I'm here, just so I can do what I love to do, and try and make it to the top tier.
Whereabouts did this work ethic come from, Brodie? Like, I know as a chef, you sort of sit there and you go like 70 hours a week. You're like, yeah, of course, like that's kind of normal, like doing 12 hours a day in a kitchen was very, very standard. But where did the work ethic for you come from?
I guess from a very early age. I mean, I started working when I was 14 years old in a kitchen. My family owned a kitchen in Adelaide, so I was always around food. I always wanted my own money. Like I didn't come up with like the wealthiest upbringing, but my parents did what they could. My dad was a single parent; he did what he could. But I always wanted my own freedom and ability to do what I wanted to do. So that's where I started working at 14, and then it just sort of grew. And then the hospitality lifestyle took over, and you don't really get a choice in those hours. It's much better now. Like I'm in a position where when I work in Melbourne, I can pick and choose my hours. I'm at a level where um, I can sort of dictate what I take on as well because I'm not limited to like my financial status. I'm not desperate for money or any aspect. I've done well um, over the last couple of years consulting. So yeah, I sort of have the ability to pick and choose what I do, and I'm very well paid for what I do now, especially because I'm more of in a consulting fashion. So I'm not in a restaurant cooking anymore, which is amazing. I don't miss those days in the least. I just sort of get to oversee and get the stress from that now.
You mentioned about being in the US and competing over there. I know for myself as a competitor here in Australia, I'm pretty envious of the US tournaments. It seems like there's a tournament more or less every weekend, whether it's IBJJF or Naga or any of those tournaments. What are they like generally? Those local US tournaments. How do they compare sort of to the bigger ones and also to the Australian tournaments that we have, like say our state titles or nationals or whatever?
Yeah, it's a really good question. The struggle that you have in Australia, especially I guess it starts at purple belt, brown belt, is the lack of competitors, and now that doesn't go away. Unfortunately, I thought being in the US that would not be a problem, but like I recently competed in the San Antonio Open. There was 4 of us. Like it seems that anywhere I compete in an IBJJF Open, there's only 3 or 4 of us, unless I'm going to a major tournament, like such as Jiu-Jitsu Con, Pans, Euros, or Worlds. Basically, they're the only tournaments that I've found that I can really get competitors either at purple or brown. It's a lot harder at brown now. So I guess it still limits myself the same as you would in Australia of like, why am I going to pay this money to compete in this tournament when there's only going to be one other person that might not even show up? So that is still real over here. I guess with grappling industries and Naga and that sort of stuff, I would say it's pretty similar to what we have in Australia. The divisions are still small depending on where you go, just because of the vast amount of tournaments here. I think there's an oversupply of tournaments, especially here in Austin. There's something weird about Austin that nobody wants to compete in Austin, despite having the best and most jiu-jitsu like students being here. It's really weird, both in a professional aspect and in a amateur aspect. One of my friends runs a tournament, a professional tournament, and he says he struggles in Austin for both people showing up to pay for the tournaments and also like spectatorship for like a professional event to be put on, which is really weird for a place like Austin. It still surprises me both from not being able to compete in Austin to people not showing up to like fill a room full of people fighting.
We've spoken a wee bit about training at Absolute. What about Kingsway? You spend your time when you're overseas, you spend it there. Like that's obviously an amazing room to be in. Give us a bit of a rundown on that, mate.
Yeah, it's sorry. It's very similar to Absolute. in the aspect that we have I only train in the pro sessions, which is 9:30 a.m. And midday, depending on when John comes up. But it's about 45 minutes to an hour of drilling technique, and usually that's 5 to 6 techniques, depending on what John's showing, or Gordon. Gordon's been around a lot lately because John's been traveling as well, and vice versa. We'll do 10 minutes roughly of wrestling, situational, depending on the day. That's more of a live intensity drill, just getting used to different scenarios. And then we do anywhere between 4 and 6 rounds. The first one's always mount. The second one's always turtle. The third one is always is a switch between Juji Gatami, which is an armbar round, like spiderweb, or cross ashi, which is saddle, round starting in double trouble. Mixes of that. Then our fourth one's standing, and that's basically an open round. And then depending on the day, we'll do anywhere between 1 and 3 of those rounds, and depending on who's in training camp and what's going on. Training it changes depending on what's going on with the team and whatnot. For example, we just finished the CGI camp a few months ago, and training for us looked a lot differently for the people in the training camp.
So you're pretty fortunate to have, I guess, training partners like Luke Griffith and things like that for you. What's that like? As a brown belt training with people of that level.
You say fortunate,
fortunate, unfortunate.
I would say I love Luke. Like, Luke is such an incredible teacher, but also a training partner. At no point Luke has always had a weight advantage over me. Weight and skill advantage. Sorry. Training with Luke has always been very safe. He's always had a weight and skill advantage. I did 7 weeks with him for the CGI camp, being one of his main training partners. It's very grueling because the stuff that Luke does is just incredible. Like, he develops his game plan during the CGI camp was always evolving. Like, when we first started using the wall, because we had a private training facility for a lot of that, we were using a wall. I felt like my MMA experience, I had a little bit of an edge on those guys because I'd done cage wrestling, I'd done whatnot. When it came to jiu-jitsu, though, there was still that gap. But I found I was able to do things to them. And very quickly, once they learned how to use that, the gap went away. But yeah, incredible training partners in that retrospect, but it's very grueling and very tough. I don't look forward to a round that I have to do with Luke, but it's always fun. It's always exciting. It's never boring.
I think it's really cool, like, as you sort of say, the first 4, like, you start from actual specific positions. So it seems like everything that happens over there, it's very purposeful. It's not like, slap hands, bump fists, like, let's go. Like, there's a purpose, there's a reason, it's goal orientated the whole time. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's definitely goal orientated, and it can be annoying depending on who you get for, like, those situational rounds. Like, we have one of my other training partners is Dominic Miha. I don't know if I'm saying his last name right. He's a 66 kilo guy, but doing mount with him is the most ridiculous thing ever. I'm like, I do everything I can to not let you get mount, and now we're just giving you the position. Same with Luke. Like, doing mount with Luke, I'm just like, why am I even here? Like, I feel like a white belt when I do some of these rounds with him, but when I go against other people, when I visit for seminars, teaching and whatnot, I really see the skill gap difference between here and when I travel, and I see the skills being attained more when I travel.
Craig Jones used to be quite involved with Absolute. Do you mind if I ask why you chose Kingsway rather than B Team to train with over there? Was it anything specific, or just?
I did a small training camp at B team when it was B team. That was the first place I went to. I did about 3 months there. It wasn't very structured when I was there. That's the feedback I also hear from other people. It's very, let's get a bunch of guys in the room. We're all athletes, and it's similar to what I was saying with Lachlan being an athlete and not a coach. Very selfish, and that's what I found at the time when I was there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Especially now. This was before when Dima was there. Dima took over as coach for a little bit. And now Nicky Ryan's taking over as head coach. I still have lots of friends there, but we're definitely seeing a migration from B team or Simple Man these days to Kingsway because of the non-structure in the training.
Yeah, you sort of see, I think even just the online presence of, let's say, John and Craig, like you see the structure of John and then you see the chaos of Craig, right? You're like, surely that's the same in a training room.
Yeah, it's not much different in my experience.
So going forward now, Brodie, what does the rest of this year look like? And then what are the goals that you've already set for 2026?
So I head over to I start my trek back to Australia on Monday. I've got a seminar in Malaysia, which I'm very fortunate to have out there. That covers my trip to Singapore, Bangkok at least. I'm in Bangkok finishing out my weight cut to make 77 kilos for Asian trials. And then I'll be back home until roughly May. Again, I'll be working Australian Open. I'll be working Formula One. I've already been recontracted for that. So that's a little bit of time booked away. But the goal for the first half of the year is skill development, because I find that when I come back home, that's where I make the biggest skill advances, is because I have all this information from Kingsway that I can take, that I can really apply to myself when I'm in Melbourne. I guess I have a little bit more freedom in Melbourne with the training. Like, we can come in early. I have good training partners where I can train before the session. We have more open rounds back home. So that's, I guess, how you look at it. For me, it's a blessing because it means I can work on specific things that I'm working on. Whereas when I'm training under John, it's very specific to, you have to do mount every day. You have to do leg locks. You have to do turtle. And I'm always working on these things, but there's some days where I'm just like, I just want to work on passing guard or whatnot. So we're looking forward to that. I'll come back to Kingsway in May for a month to finish up the trials for the second trials camp. That's a decision I've made purely because I'm going to have to fight 90% of my teammates in the second trials for that slot. So whatever edge I can get over them, I love them to death. But if I'm going to have to fight my teammates, I can come over here, train. Especially when I'm in training camp, like Oliver Tarza is an amazing training partner. He was a lot of my training partner for this camp and for my Grapple Fest match. And then I'll come back in June to do trials. And then next year, from June onwards, I'm just trying to compete as much as I can around the US, because I found that the last couple of years, I've been struggling to compete in tournaments, whether I'm injured or whether I have other commitments professionally, i.e. professional super fights. I'm very, very loyal to them when I sign a contract. I don't compete a month out purely because I don't want to be injured. That I want to put the best performance I can for a super fight, whatnot. So I'm planning to do all the majors again. Euros, I already have that booked. Something to be announced. There'll probably also be a training camp before that in Italy. I've been asked to come back and teach a weekend 3-day camp over there, so that's exciting. I'll do Worlds, I'll do Pans, and then I'll probably just compete in a bunch of IBJJF tournaments around the US just to get my name out there, but also get the tournament experience that I've been struggling the last couple of years.
there's still spots for that seminar in Malaysia. I'm not sure when this episode will be out. It should hopefully be out before that seminar. If you want, share us the link and we can put it in the show, so anybody out around the Malaysia area, if they happen to be any of our listeners, or any of your local events that might be coming up, if you've got anything like that, we can definitely share them. I didn't realize that you're 77 kilos, Brodie. Were you always at that weight? Have you lost a decent amount of weight?
Dude, you look huge. You look huge.
No, I haven't always been. I always compete. The last couple of years, I've competed at 85 kilos, but I always sit around the 83, 84 kilo range. So I've never been far off cutting to 77 for either professional matches or trials. At the start of the year, I injured my knee, which caused me some time off jiu-jitsu. So I was focusing on lifting, getting heavy. I got up to about 90 kilos. Working with JT from Bulletproof BJJ. He's been incredible. He's worked a lot of rehab stuff for when I tore my shoulder and also when I injured my knee. And now we're just working our way back down. So I've always been like sort of around the 80 to 85 kilo. It just fluctuates depending on what the goals are at the time. But usually I'll try and stay under 85 so I can get in that medium heavy without having to cut any weight. Usually I sit around 84 kilos so I can just register for whatever I want when I can. But also it's not that much of a cut for day before weigh-ins for either a professional match or for trials. So it's never too bad of a cut on myself. And again, I work with some of a really good nutritionalist. So I've never had a hard cut at the end of the day either.
You've obviously competed a lot. How much can you talk to us a little bit about mindset? Like what is do you have like a set approach each comp that you go into? Like talk us through how you mentally prepare for a comp, whether it be in the weeks leading up or on the day of or whatever, like what's sort of going through your mind?
It's a good question. It's really evolved over the years. Very early on, I didn't really have anything. I would always just listen to music beforehand, get amped up, but that was about it. There was never any strategy towards it. When I started working with Jeremy Skinner, when I moved to Absolute MMA, during my very first professional match, we adapted a system where I would warm up, get really sweaty, almost to the point where I'm sweating and like short of breath. So like I've just done 3 rounds basically. And then what I noticed over the times, I found more consistent results in my competition results because I was always going in. Cardio was never an issue. So doing that 10 minutes of high intensity, I dump the adrenaline out. I never have the adrenaline dump when I compete. And then, you never know what's going to get thrown at you. So you never know what's going to get thrown to you in the very first match. Some guy could come at 100 miles an hour, or it could be a cruisy match throughout the match. So by getting that workout in beforehand, I'm just ready for whatever happens. Basically, I'm ready to go 100 miles an hour. I'm ready to match their pace, but I'm also happy to chill and work the way up, depending on what happens.
Yeah, my coach Lincoln Hancock is a big proponent of that warm up. Yeah, in the time before to get, and it actually has really surprised me that even at the highest level that a lot of people will not actually really warm up properly. Like it's strange. Like I don't know why you've come all this way and now you're just going almost cold.
Yeah, I mean it's I've seen that a lot. It's wild. I mean, I guess that's my approach for professional matches. With IBJJF, it's less so because you never have warm-up mats. You never know when you're going to go on. But when you're competing in the majors, it's a lot more. The time is it is what it is. So it's you sort of know more so when you're coming up, especially like competing at Europeans. Like I can get this warm-up in, go to the bullpen and almost be guaranteed to be up within 10 minutes. So it's like it's okay. But then when I compete in the IBJJF Opens, I won't actually warm up. I know it's really bad. I'll stretch, but when I stretch, just to make sure I don't get injured. But you don't know if you're going to be in that ballpark for 10 minutes or an hour and a half. So it's really hard in that aspect to manage that. But I'll always have my hoodie on. I'll have my music on. I'll be visualizing the win, how I'm going to win, and just sort of going through most positions that I think is going to happen.
Does John talk about that mindset stuff much in training at Kingsway, or not really? No. Interesting.
I've seen him talk about it to his athletes when they've been backstage or competing, but it's always been like more so to never show your opponent when you're tired. And that's sort of been the focus. It's when you're competing, if it gets broken up, it's always be hands raised, ready to go, looking like you're ready to go another 10 minutes. Something I took from Isaac Michel, I believe it was Isaac, or somebody said that I always run out to shake the ref's hands first, to almost like you're like, I'm here first, I'm ready to go. And I've taken that approach as well. Always showing you're never tired is really sort of the game plan with John. But otherwise than that, it's all about John emphasizes skill over, I guess, mind tricks. Not really mind tricks, but you know what I mean.
Can you just touch on skill acquisition as well, Brodie? So we've covered so much, mate. This is an awesome podcast. I'm getting heaps from it, to be honest with you. Can you tell us about how, like, you're talking about coming back to Melbourne and then, your skill acquisition. So how does that look for you, that skill development, skill acquisition? How does that work for you? How do you put that into practice?
Yeah, that's a good question. Just because the amount of training that I'm doing in the US, John doesn't teach in themes or like weekly segments. So I could be training tomorrow and it will be an armbar, purely all about arm bars. But then the next day it'll be all about sweeping an opponent from open guard or something like that, something completely different. Yeah. So it's hard for me to work on the things that I want to work on when I'm at Kingsway. Don't get me wrong, I learn a lot, I adapt a lot, my game adjusts tenfold, but it's in niche areas. For example, like the last couple of I'd say the last month, my Sumigashi butterfly sweep and a bunch of like controlling the back has really leveled up, but it's because of small changes in the game. It's not necessarily I've adapted a whole new skill set to be able to do that. But when I come back to Melbourne, I take notes on John's classes. Not regularly, I try to, but the things that interest me and that I want to incorporate my game, I take notes on, and then I will drill it when I'm back home. I'll purposely look for those positions. So at the moment, I'm working a lot on passing guard in different aspects. So I'll force people into specific positions there. I've also worked with Luke a lot, so we've filmed a lot of the privates, like the technique from the private. So I still, even though I haven't done anything this year with him, I still go back to the ones I did last year. Work on those details that I'm looking at because I'm still trying to develop that game. But I also think the biggest difference is I have more people I can not bully, but more people I can force into the positions. Whereas when I'm here, a lot of my training partners, depending on the camp, are the top level guys where I'm not getting anything on. Like I spent 7 weeks basically being Luke and Giancarlo's punching bag, where my skill acquisition there was next to nothing. But I did gain some experience from that. I did gain the network when I went out to Vegas with them. I did gain little bits and pieces of survival, but I wasn't necessarily gaining any new skills from that.
Yeah, that's the interesting part, I think, in that skill development and skill acquisition is like having the people that you are that little bit better than, so you can practice, okay, I want to be passing guard, so you pass guard and then you let them recover and then you pass guard and then you let them recover. Whereas training with Luke Griffiths, it's like survival, survival, survival. And he's like, yeah, this is awesome. I just go back and pass card again.
That is literally what it feels like with Luke half the time. It's like, oh yeah, thanks for letting me recover guard or letting me recover half guard just so you can smash through it again. But I mean, I love it. The guys are really nice. Like that, I'm never getting. I've always been very picky with my training partners, especially when I'm helping them during a camp. There are people that I decline to train with. I won't name names, but there are select bodies that I won't roll with, not because I don't like them, but purely because either there's a size difference or just because their style of game can cause injuries. And at the end of the day, I'm also an athlete, so I'm not getting paid to be part of their training camp. So I need to look after my body as well. At the end of the day, like I still have goals and competitions alongside what they're doing. So I've always been very hesitant. And I was very hesitant when Luke invited me for the CGI camp as to like, why am I here? But I've soon found out that it was a very safe environment. It was a very, like I wasn't going to get injured in that camp.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brodie, for giving up your time. As Brentos said, this has been an awesome episode. I hope that our listeners are getting as much out of it as what Brentos and I are. We've just got a couple of little pop quiz questions here at the end that we do to wrap it up. You can make the answers as short or as long as you like. So, Brentos, let's go.
All right. We may know a couple of these, but we'll see how we go. iPhone or Samsung?
Samsung.
CJI or ADCC?
Oh. That's a tough one. Prestige, ADCC, entertainment value, CGI. CGI won. I want to emphasize CGI won.
Yeah, $1 million is $1 million.
Yeah.
Strength or flexibility?
Strength.
Pasta or rice?
Rice.
Steak or chicken?
Steak.
Guard pull or takedown?
Oh, 100% guard puller.
Legend. Gi or no gi?
100% no gear.
100%. I like it. What's the favorite belt that you've been at, mate?
I want to say purple belt. It was when I would say I accomplished the most. I mean, I would say purple so far.
Yeah.
Accomplished a lot at purple belt. I spent a few years there. I feel like I really came into my stride as a competitor at purple belt. That's sort of also when I took off competing internationally. So that's definitely been my favorite so far. I'm hoping to do it again at brown belt and make an even bigger name at brown belt for myself.
That has been the most popular answer, Brodie. I think I'm in that category too.
We like that, mate.
Yeah,
I've got a couple more for you. The first one, can you drive a manual car?
I cannot.
You know what it is, Brent? It's
mate,
because
a
he's
country
under
boy,
40.
Adelaide.
No, it's because he's under 40. It's his age, not his location.
I have a funny feeling it's similar to a motorcycle, so I feel like I could maybe make it work.
I know my car is safe around you, mate. Then that's okay. This will be an interesting one. Do you wear Crocs?
Crocs. Oh, no.
Okay, good.
You got a 50% pass, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, 50%. Mate, before we do finish it up, Brodie, do you want to give a shout out to your sponsors, mate? So they obviously help you out a fair bit. So give a shout out to your sponsors if you can remember all of them. No pressure.
This is always the one that I struggle with. We have Phil from Delco Constructions. He owns a construction company in Adelaide, doing form work for commercial and residential work. I have Meat and Bread in Austin, best sandwiches in downtown Austin. I have JT and the crew at Bulletproof for BJJ. They handle all my strength conditioning and rehab for when I get injured. And there's one more that I can't remember. Hold up. I need a. I always get three out of four. A new recent one. Actually, Defenso in the USA.
Awesome.
I've been doing a lot of work with them. They've recently come on board as a sponsor. I don't know why I glimpsed on that there.
No, on the Instagram.
Yeah,
There's
they're
heaps of that on
doing
your
a lot of
Instagram.
promo stuff for them at the moment. They're really nice guys. I love the crew there, and I look forward to building the relationships with them and all my other sponsors over the years to come.
Mate, congratulations on everything you've achieved so far, Brodie. I know there's definitely a lot more ahead of you. For those of you out there listening to this, check Brodie's Instagram page out. I'm sure you're on other socials too, but your Instagram page really is very, very good. So check that out. We will leave it there. Thank you for tuning in to another awesome episode of Roll or Die. Remember, please like, rate, and share these episodes around so we can get more cool guys like Brodie on. We really appreciate everybody's support out there. Thank you, Brodie. Awesome podcast, mate. Thank you for coming on. We truly do look forward to seeing you smash it towards the end of this year. All the best for all the upcoming trials and stuff as well, mate. Kim, you've pulled this one out of the bag, mate. This is an awesome episode. This is one of my favorites for a while. This is awesome.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for having
much,
me, guys.
Brodie. We'll have this episode out in a couple of weeks. So as Brent said, good luck for the rest of the year and next year. Looking forward to seeing you out there on the big stage, showing the world what Australian Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is at. And we will leave it there and see all our listeners on the next episode. Thank you. Take care.
Well done, legends. Peace out.
Thanks, guys.